Hello. Okay. We are on. Let's see if they allow me to screen record this time. Let's hopefully that, All right. First things first. If you're new here, welcome. But I'm going to need you to jump off this live because, no offense, I just don't want you to get, just don't watch my live if you haven't seen at least 4 to 5 highlights prior. Okay? That's it. Because I don't want you to be on this live asking questions like, what's going on? Things like that. And honestly, if you sat through a handful of highlights, you, many of the questions that you have going on up here are going to be answered. But I'm going to need you to do that. Take that time, make that effort. And what I'm going to do, because I get asked about this orange drink when you're pregnant all the time, and I don't want to be mean in my responses in my inbox, and it's not so much being mean. I get it, you guys. I know thyself. I know myself, and I know that I'd rather just not. And so what I'm going to do with this live is I'm going to make the first bit of it just facts, really informative. When I'm done talking about it, I'll give you that warning and you can jump off, because then I'm going to give you like my real opinion on it. All right. So let's start with this because we live in crazy town. And thanks for those who watched the live yesterday with Wake Up with Linda. I know that there were, from what I heard, there were a couple of trolls on there. They didn't save the first live that we did together. And how crazy was it that the minute we were talking, she asked me at least 4 to 5 different questions. Then when she got to the question on, she said the word, and then she followed that word with autism. AUTISM. And what happened? It just shut us down. Like the whole live just stopped. And so I don't even think that she was able to save that live. We jumped back on and did another one together, but it was a little bizarre. All right. So we are going to be talking about the glucose tolerance test, aka that drink. And, I apologize. You guys realize I have a situation going on up here, This one gets to like anywhere from a D to an F. They fluctuate because I'm still pumping. So bear with me. I need this table to be a rester for this one in particular, which is suffering through. So I don't know how terrible that looks right now, but I don't care. All right, so the drink that they offer you when pregnant is, many of us have done this. We've fallen to the trap of, I'm unfortunately pregnant in a time in history where the getting pregnant part I could do, and the feeding the baby part I could do. I know there's a lot of assistance, though, if I don't want to because of comfort reasons and selfish reasons. But here I go with my opinion. But apparently, the entire pregnancy part, that labor part, I have to depend on a system, the medical system, where I think I have choice and I think I have say, but I really only have the options A, B, or C that they've given me. Because if I give them option D or what I want to do, they're going to be like, no. And also, your insurance will not cover that. Going on. So this glucose tolerance test is supposed to measure how well your body cells are able to absorb glucose, sugar pretty much, after you consume a specific amount of sugar. So doctors are using, they use fasting blood sugar levels and hemoglobin A1C A1C values to diagnose type 1 and type 2 diabetes as well as prediabetes. It's hard when 10% of us in this country, 10% of women, have a predisposition to gestational diabetes. But then is it really that hard when over 80% of the food that's lining our shelves is processed sugar? Is that really hard to come up with that kind of number? I mean, I'm surprised that it's not a higher number. So they're going to tell you there's like 10% of women who are pregnant that have diabetes. And you're going to go, oh my gosh. And they're going to say, it's really, you don't want to get diabetes while pregnant. And you're going to go, yeah, I know, I don't want to get diabetes while pregnant. They're going to go, yeah, you really don't. And you're going to say, what should I do then? And they're going to say, well, we're going to give you this drink, which is pretty much diabetes in a cup. But we're going to give you this drink. We're going to make sure that you don't eat anything that day. You go in practically starving, and it's pretty much soda, right? It's all sugar to do tests for you. But we're not even asking, hey, can you tell me what would happen if I were to have gestational diabetes and I were to give birth and go through the pregnancy with but we don't ask that question. I'll get to what that answer is later on. But the doctors are diagnosing type 1 diabetes quickly because it usually develops rapidly and involves high blood sugar levels and symptoms. We know that. And type 2 diabetes, on the other hand, it often develops over many years. It's not as serious, but it is the most common form of diabetes, and it usually develops during adulthood. Probably when your body is just like outdone on the processed sugar. Gestational diabetes occurs when pregnant women who haven't had diabetes before pregnancy have high blood sugar levels as a result of the pregnancy. And the American Diabetes Association estimates that gestational diabetes occurs in up to 10% of pregnancies in the United States. So you could check out the American Diabetes Association for this information I'm giving you right here. Who needs a glucose tolerance test? American Diabetes Association. Well, they say doctors should screen all pregnant women for gestational diabetes because this can cause pregnancy complications. So early detection and prompt treatment are very important. If you're pregnant, your doctor will recommend that you have this test between weeks 24 and 28 of your pregnancy. They will also admit on this site for American Diabetes Association that the risks of a glucose tolerance test, this is what they're admitting the risks are, kind of like the information sheets, right? Here's some risks to drinking this. Some people find the glucose drinks difficult to tolerate, especially those with high levels of sugar, because you're adding more. You may experience nausea, stomach discomfort, diarrhea, or constipation. Way to go. I'm already going through pregnancy. Let's go ahead and add on more symptoms that I have to go through while pregnant. That would be great. So they are trying to test measures and how well your body is going to be able to absorb all of this, right? And during the test, this takes place obviously at the doctor's office or a local lab. I have to remind you that while it doesn't feel like you're in the land of the free anymore, you still get a say. Typically at that visit, they're going to do whatever they need to do at the office, right? Push whatever they need to push. And then they're going to say, okay, now time to go. Before you go home, remember, go to the lab and go and do this. And you're there feeling like, I don't want to do this. But, all right. So moving on, let's talk about what's in this drink. And then let's pull up some studies here. So this glucose drink contains things like, here's an ingredient, okay? Brominated vegetable oil, which is BVO. You see that in a lot of sodas out there. That is a flame retardant, okay? BVO is a flame retardant. It is banned in Japan. It's banned in Europe. Like, ever wonder why if you go to these places, their sodas taste a little different? Like, their Mountain Dew doesn't taste exactly like our Mountain Dew. I mean, just like subtle differences like that. It's an ingredient that's banned there. BVO contains bromine, which is known to cause thyroid dysfunction, and it's been associated with liver dysfunction, neurological, and fertility issues. What am I reading? I am looking up currently. So you guys can, I'm on PubChem, okay? It's the National Center for Biotechnology Information. And you would go on pubchem.ncbi.nlm, and you would just search for bromine. And you would see what this has been related to. There's 8,000 pieces of literature on it. There's 2,195 bioassays on it. So there's a lot of information here. I'm just pulling up the goods. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at. What else does it relate to? Let's see. Okay, so it's been associated, I said, thyroid dysfunction, neurological fertility issues, liver dysfunction. It's been associated with heart lesions, okay, impaired growth and behavioral development. All right, and other ingredients include, get this, other ingredients include artificial flavoring, colors, and high fructose GMO corn syrup. Let's throw in a little bit of glyphosate into your system while you're pregnant, because we're worried about the possibility that you might have gestational diabetes. All right? There is absolutely no reason that you need to drink this toxic chemical cocktail bomb, especially while pregnant. Especially while pregnant. If you know of a pregnant mother, you have to send information like this to her, because she still has a choice. Like, for those out there watching this, if it's the future, currently we're in July of 2019. We've got 200 different vaccines coming down the pipeline. We've got mandates all over the place. But currently now, women still get to say yes or no to certain things offered to them while they're pregnant. I just need you guys to know that. And some of us are fighting. Okay, I have to mention that not all formulations of this drink contain BVO, but it doesn't get rid of all of the other toxic ingredients, okay? I'm not also here telling you, oh gosh, I forgot to give myself that little bit of a notice before this live. I am not telling you to not take this drink. Do what you want to do. Okay? I'm telling you, I'm not going to take this drink, and here's why. All right. You have other options as well. This girl, I believe her name is Gabby, she had listed that you can be empowered. There's other alternatives you can take. There is a hemoglobin A1C test, which is a simple blood test done in your first trimester that can already let you know if you're at risk for gestational diabetes. You can also do what's called a jelly bean test, where they swap the drink out for 28 jelly beans, which provide 50 grams of sugar required for the traditional test. You have to get the non-GMO, naturally colored jelly beans. Other options, there's apparently 6 ounces of organic grape juice and a banana would get you to those levels. 16 ounces of just orange juice, like regular orange juice. Or, I don't know, natural drinks with 50 grams of sugar, if you can source that. Or how about none of the above? That's for me. How about none of the above? So, BVO, what's important to note is also their label of GRAS, which is GRAS. It's generally recognized as safe by the FDA. Was removed in 1970. It was taken off the market only 7 years later to be reintroduced and put into our sodas, okay, into soft drinks, on interim status. It was supposed to only be on there as an interim status, where it still stands. This was before 1980. It's technically on an interim status. Shouldn't be on there at all. Let's look up some other interesting facts here. We've got on PubMed, you can also check out the evaluation of the genotoxicity of 2 food preservatives, which is sodium benzoate and potassium benzoate. It goes into that. That's one good thing to look at. There's under Science Direct, the toxic effects of brominated vegetable oil in rats and what that's doing to rats. They had a group of 15 weanling male and 15 female rats. They were fed semi-purified diets containing brominated corn, cottonseed, olive, or sesame oil for 105 days. The food consumption and body weight gain were normal with the exception of the male rats fed brominated olive with the exception of the male rats that were being fed brominated olive oil. All rats fed 0.5% of the brominated oils had increased relative heart weights. The rats that were fed the 0.5%, but not those fed the 0.1% brominated oil, had degenerative myocardial lesions characterized by myoclitolysis, sorry, I'm butchering that, and fatty change. All of the rats fed these brominated oils had fatty changes in their liver. The female animals fed these oils had a slightly higher incidence of thyroid microfollicular hyperplasia than the males. So there's, and this is like one study. I won't bore you with like the 100 other studies on taking this. Okay, but I want to get into this part now. This is the part where I'm like, here we go with a little bit of a, I guess you can call it an opinion. Or not. What happens if you are going through gestational diabetes? What would happen? Okay? Here's what would happen. They're not going to terminate the pregnancy. You're going to still have the baby. So let's get into this a little bit. If you were to take this test and they say you have gestational diabetes, what happens next? The doctor is going to now recommend that you, hold on, give me a second. That you eat better. That you stop with the garbage that you're eating because you're eating like shit. Okay? They're going to suggest that you take on something called basic healthy eating. All right? Start eating nutritious foods. I'm going to tell you exactly what they're going to recommend you do if you have gestational diabetes. Fresh vegetables, eggs or egg whites, baked fish, skinless chicken breasts. If you want popcorn, pregnant girl, the air-popped popcorn, you know, if you can stay away from the microwave type stuff, unsweetened Greek yogurt, you know, they're going to give you diabetes-friendly smoothie recipes. You're going to want to avoid, they're going to tell you, okay, so listen, you have gestational diabetes. Here's what you need to stay away from. Which, mind blown, you should probably be staying away from this to begin with. You guys ready for this list? Fast food. Alcohol. Baked goods, things like muffins, donuts, or cakes, fried food, sugary drinks. But wait, didn't you just... Oh, but not that. That one was important, though, because that was sort of this test so that we can get to this next thing where I'm going to give you a nutrition plan that's just, like, so basic. Candy. You can't eat candy if you have gestational diabetes. You shouldn't eat candy. You can do what you want, but you shouldn't. Or very starchy foods, such as white potatoes and white rice. But what are the complications, Doc, now that I've got gestational diabetes and I want to keep this baby? Well, it's going to be a little risky for both you and your baby. The extra glucose in your body is going to make your baby gain weight naturally, you know, because you keep eating the ho-hos and go into the drive-through. But a bigger baby is going to put you at risk for having a more difficult delivery because, well, they're bigger. So it's going to be harder to push out something bigger. Would you rather push out a cantaloupe or a watermelon? I don't know. Well, that's an obvious one. You know, if the baby's bigger and you're there pushing, and it's going to like rip more. It's going to the more bleeding. You know, the baby might also have a hard time keeping their blood sugar stable after the birth. Okay, it's going to increase your risk of high blood pressure during pregnancy. But if you don't stop this terrible diet you're on to begin with, you're going to have that risk of high blood pressure after pregnancy anyways, is what they're going to fail to tell you. So that's going to be their treatment plan if you have gestational diabetes. Am I just a big baby? Am I just a big baby human that needs this kind of coddling? In many cases, by the way, if you were only on here to learn about the orange drink, you can jump off right now because now it's just the point where I'm going to break down just thoughts on this. Sorry if you didn't get that notice. But in addition to maintaining a well-balanced diet, here are some other things you can do to remain healthy while you're pregnant. Exercise regularly. You should exercise at least, 30 minutes, 3 times a week, just something. Eat every 2 hours, but healthy foods, like healthy snacking. Take your prenatals, and then see the doctor as often as that doctor is going to recommend you see that doctor. Because now that you've got that diagnosis of gestational diabetes, you have way more visits to go into, all right? You should be very worried about brominated vegetable oil, which is BVO. You should be really worried that soda contains this. Women who are still drinking sodas and wondering why they are having a hard time conceiving, amongst other things, okay? You got to be checking labels on stuff. This is just crazy town. The fact that, it's banned in other countries. Come on, you guys. There's also been reports linking, a side note too, because these studies are pulling up here. This one in particular had linked with BVOs. There's been reports of people experiencing memory loss and skin and nerve problems after drinking excessive amounts of this stuff. So this is for the people that are drinking like a liter or 2 of soda every day. So in summary here, our system is saying that they don't trust you. They don't trust you because you are a big baby woman child who is living in this hamster cage that they created for you, where almost all of the food in this country and your options in this country are never to try to do it on your own, to try to feed yourself, learn how to grow things yourself. It's never that. It's to continue to be dependent on their system. And it's all processed sugar. It's just all processed sugar. So it's here's a thought. If you are pregnant and you are only in your first trimester and you're thinking that drink is coming up, I'm so worried, I don't want to take this drink, but I also don't want to go through. Did you know that you have the power today to immediately change what it is that you are picking up with your own fingers and your own hand and putting into your own mouth and chewing and swallowing and going through things that are going to help cause type 2 diabetes. I am not perfect. I'm not perfect. 9 years ago when I was pregnant with Amelia, or I had just given birth, but my pregnancy with Amelia, you guys, Jeff and I thought when we had her that she was going to come out. We were shocked when she came out that she was not a $6 teriyaki burger from Carl's Jr., okay? We were like, whoa. Because I was eating like terribly. I fell into that. Oh, but you're pregnant. You got to treat yourself. We are living in this hamster wheel, you guys. It's crazy. So I'm not judging you, but I'm also saying it's like, if you're going to continue on this trend, knowing now, it is like know better, do better, right? If you're going to continue on with it, and you're like, well, I know that this stuff is really bad for my health and can likely affect this growing baby inside of me, but, you know, I'm weak to this because it's addictive. These sugars are really, really addictive. But our problem here, okay, because we as human beings, we're born capable of just about everything. How human beings being able to adapt to all kinds of circumstance, weather. We got TV shows called I Shouldn't Be Alive. And what happens when you allow your mind to get rid of those thoughts that you're not going to make it, it's never going to work for you. These are like the defying moments in our time where this is why we get so many of the stories that turn into movies where people defied the odds and prove their doctors wrong. Like those are the ones that get turned into books and movies, right? And it happens. It's not uncommon. The system wants you to think that it is a miracle. In other words, meaning like something that just you couldn't do, but this one person in particular was able to do, but that shouldn't be the set gold standard. Whereas actually, the miracle could happen to anybody that chooses to turn around and walk away from what is, in fact, crazy. Our problem right now is that we are so deep in their indoctrination that we have been outsourcing every single thing in our lives. Everything that you outsource in your life, you have to expect consequences. Just like I am still going to want to eat meat. I'm not giving up meat. I don't want to have that discussion on here. I'm not eating like the terrible crap. I'm trying to make my best efforts and going with the better stuff, but I'm still outsourcing. I'm still relying on a farmer somewhere that I don't know who's going to kill an animal, who I'm hoping is going to clean it properly, handle it with the best of, it's kind of like if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself. How many things in our life have we just allowed other people to do? And I'm nowhere in this is why I say there's no judgment, because I'm still not quite ready to go and kill the animal that I'm going to enjoy and eat later. But you have to expect that there could be consequences to that. And same with, so it's going to just be the same thing when it comes to our health like this. If you have relied on the system to feed you, well, we know that they're feeding you pretty much FDA-approved poison. Okay? That they're okay with that, or that when they do mess up and they realize, oh my gosh, we shouldn't have been giving that to you, sorry, the gig is up, there obviously is no redemption. There's no apology from these same people. We're just going to say, oh, okay, well, thanks for catching that lie. What else you got? What else do you have for me behind that magic curtain that's going to keep me so dependent? And this is very easy, ladies. If you are pregnant and you're freaking out about avoiding this drink, start taking a good hard look on what your diet consists of and ask yourself, forget being pregnant, ask yourself, look at your pantry, look at your fridge. Am I on the verge of, whether I'm pregnant or not, being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, because that is on the rise like crazy in America? Am I on the verge of being diagnosed with that? 20% of our nation's children are obese. The same people that are putting the food out, that are putting a stamp on it saying it's safe to take, we are telling you it's safe to take, are also the same people that are coming up with the stuff to treat your now condition to what you trusted from them. So outsourcing anything doesn't really do us any good at all. But this is the society we're in right now. You want to make better choices. Obviously, if you're going to spend, like Adam was doing a talk the other day and he was saying you're going to spend the $5 to $6 on the whole chicken because it's just cheaper. But you spending that money on that is supporting an industry that is treating their animals in this kind of way. And it's absolutely terrible. So we really have to be careful where our dollars are going. But once again, look at your diet. Look at what you're eating while pregnant. And then ask yourself, like, if you're not ready, though, to stop those habits, I guess this drink is something that really wouldn't make a dent in, it would not make a difference in what you're taking. Your kid could be on the verge of having diabetes and all kinds of health issues if you are continuing with terrible eating while pregnant. So I personally would decline this, especially because sodium benzoate, okay, that's a preservative in this drink as well. Currently, okay, the present results indicate, and this is an NCBI study on PubMed, it's 211-30826. The present results indicate that sodium benzoate and PB are clastogenic, mutagenic, and cytotoxic to human lymphocytes in vitro. This is a utterly toxic, just disgusting, and the fact that there are safer alternatives out there like grape juice and a banana, that just tells you a lot. That really just tells you a lot. I don't have time on this live, but like there's at least a dozen of the most dangerous birthing practices that we've just normalized in this country because we are such big babies that we are dependent on somebody for everything in our lives. But I'll just jump to it. Number one, ultrasounds are dangerous. If you have not looked up, they have never been proven safe for a baby. And you can say, well, I had ultrasounds and my baby's okay. Look into ultrasounds. I've actually been meaning to do a whole talk on that, and I'll save that for another day because my brain's already. Rogam, that Rogam shot, I have a highlight called Rogam. Please watch it. The Strep B testing as well. That'll be for another day. Obviously, DTaP and flu shots are, and they're going to call it the Tdap, the Tdap and the flu shot while pregnant. Folic acid, early cord clamping. These are all things that are really dangerous that we're putting our bodies through before these babies even get a flipping chance at life. Antibiotics and NSAIDs. Pitocin. Pitocin. You've got women in this country that are purposefully going in 3 weeks before their due date to have a baby out of what they think is convenience. They just don't want to be pregnant for 3 extra weeks. They don't want to gain that extra weight. They just want to meet the baby and have the baby come out. You are, if that's your excuse for the Pitocin drip, you have an IQ issue that you really need to work on. There's still hope for you. There's still hope for you. Epidurals, okay? Big scam, big mistake. Obviously, if you have an epidural in your body because you can't deal with the pain, you end up in only one birthing position that coincidentally is the only birthing position that these medical staffers are trained in. If a woman is in a hospital and decides to go all natural, no meds, not be on the bed, walk around you know that's literally like them seeing a unicorn at the hospital. And then the nurses make fun of it. They'll be, oh my gosh, that lady in A12 is like trying to have a natural birth. Yeah, and then they laugh about it and they're like, oh my gosh, what a kook, what a hippie. They go and watch because they don't see it. And they weren't trained on how to deal with it. So you're going to an OBGYN who has had maybe 200 hospital births under their belt, all in the hospital, and you're not even asking them important questions like, how many of those hospital births have you performed that ended up in an emergency C-section? Can you call it an emergency C-section anymore when some hospitals have a 50% rate of C-sections? Some women, the things they research while pregnant, I swear to you. Oh my gosh, I have ex-friend who spent like weeks researching baby wraps, like cute baby wraps that were fashionable, and didn't bother calling the hospital to ask about their C-section rates, didn't know what her OBGYN, like their record for the type of births that they do. Like, these people look at you, if you want to go natural, like you're insane. You're actually in an insane asylum if you're in a hospital, not realizing that the choices and options you have were already dictated by old men. And we can go and say old white men. I'm not even on, there's no racism, no what. A bunch of old men, insurance boards, hospitals that have sat at a table and said, these are the choices that these women can have. And they're going to think that they have choice. And yet the women who are like all about women's rights and women's choices aren't even protesting this. I'd be protesting. I mean, why is there a woman yet out there that wants to just, I had a C-section the first time around, but the second time around I don't want to have a C-section, but my insurance company said if I choose to have natural, they're not going to cover it? That happens in America all the time. But you know what else happens? Tens of thousands of very successful VBACs, which is having a vaginal birth after cesarean. Go figure. They'll just say it's dangerous, though. You shouldn't do it. It's dangerous. No, it's just you haven't performed anything like that, and you're inadequate in it, and your training didn't include that. So instead of you admitting to me as a patient that you don't know about that topic, instead of you just being honest, you're going to start throwing fear my way that I should be afraid. Surgical births are also super dangerous, obviously, the cesareans. This glucose testing, it's a dangerous birthing practice that we've just accepted. And I hate to trigger just about everyone. I've had two, but the number one most dangerous birthing practice in this country is having a hospital birth. You've got people that are like, at least I'm in the hospital if something goes wrong. And then you hear the nightmare that is almost every hospital birth story. And if you really sit back and think about it, that wouldn't have happened had you not been in that place to begin with. Everything on that bill that they can add on and tack on. You have legitimate people who have shown hospital bills on the internet that got viral where the hospital has charged $35 for a skin-to-skin, meaning daddy wanted to hold his baby after the baby was born and have some skin-to-skin, like direct skin contact, which is so good for this baby. And that hospital billed your ass for it. Hospital births are dangerous. Your risk in the hospital, it's scary. Think about it. Your body was designed to do something very naturally. Because of all of this stuff that I've read off, then yes, now it is natural and now it is normal to have to be in a hospital setting because you are already a defective human, no offense, that me too, okay, I'm not speaking to that. We're defective now because we're dependent and we've taken everything they've shoved down our throats. So they know that. They know that, okay, this person came from the indoctrination system, doesn't know about, and isn't willing to learn. They just want to depend on the professionals, even though the professionals are profiting. The worse you're doing health-wise. I spent a whole month on birth, hospital births versus home births. I cannot even explain to you my midwife has performed like close to 1,000 births at this point. She's done it all, from hospital births, from birthing centers, water births, home births, like everything. She has helped delivered women in every position out there. If you don't believe me, go to the nearest medical student center in your town. There's a great one. Apparently, it's one of the top in the country in New Mexico. I won't out them. Take a tour. Take a tour of how these our future top OBGYNs are learning. Like, look at what they're learning when it comes to birth and delivery. There's already robot women that have been created, and they're only in the one position in the bed. My friend, I don't know if she's on here still. I had Victoria, who did a live with me, which we got to do more lives, but she was there on a tour, and she's had 2 home births. Her first one was in the hospital, awful experience, like they all are, and she's on this tour with a bunch of these young, recently graduated. Those are the people that are likely going to be delivering all the future babies in this country. And she raised her hand when they said, does anybody have any questions? After they showed this model robot that was in this stance, and this is how they practice, and this is how they learn, like literally like a legit birth robot. And she goes, yeah, I have a question. What happens if the woman doesn't want to birth in that way and wants to like be on her knees or be on her, and they mocked her at this tour. The woman was like, well, I don't know if you've had children yet, but this is the gold standard. This is the top way for women to be giving birth. That is the training. That's the training. And she's like, actually, I have. I've had a hospital birth. I've had 2 home births. And in my home births, they don't want you to listen to your gut in this country. They don't want you to listen to your mind and what's going on up here in your country. They want you to only listen to them because it's what they say is right. That is this is the gold standard. Okay? This isn't every single hospital. I'm hearing that things are a little bit better in other places, but I gotta say something about the hospital birth thing too. They're not even gonna give you a room when you go into the hospital. Do you realize this? For those that are like, but anything could happen at home. Anything can happen in the hospital, and worse, they're not even gonna give you a room unless you sign this clipboard that they hand to you. And on this clipboard, it's ironclad. You cannot sue them if you and or your baby die in their care. Try suing a hospital for malpractice. It is virtually impossible. I had a friend where the anesthesiologist, who has one job, missed her spine, missed it, over 4 times. Her back looked like a war zone after giving birth, okay? Meaning he was stabbing her with his epidural. It didn't work 4 times. If you miss once, you should go home for the day. That is your only job. 4 times. Her back, you're talking black and blues like you've never seen. She was literally in a brace for 2 months after giving birth. Her husband works with lawyers, I believe does marketing and things like that for lawyers. He has access to all kinds of lawyers. all over Southern California. Every single one of them looked at that paper, that contract that was signed, and were like, dude, this is impossible. This is like, literally, your wife could have just died and we still couldn't do anything. Your baby could have died there and we still couldn't do anything. Both could have died and we still couldn't do anything. So how about you understand that the risk, regardless, is always going to be on you. And you have to outweigh those risks when it's going to come to your birth. The comfort people feel being in a hospital and in a hospital setting blows my mind. And once you're awake to it and you sit back and you look at what is this industry, what's become the birthing industry in this country, it's heartbreaking. It is so heartbreaking. So we know better and we do better. I would have never thought in a million years that I could have had a home birth. Mind you, my first doctor told me when I was still pregnant with Amelia that I shouldn't be surprised if I have to have a C-section because I'm kind of small and I don't look like I have childbearing hips. I was told this. So to mentally already prepare myself. You know what that does to somebody who's already going through the pregnancy, going through the symptoms, going through all the worry, because there's going to be all this worry. You're bringing a life into this world. You're literally the portal from heaven itself. You are the portal for this baby to enter into this world, okay? And someone's going to tell you, visit number 1, by the way, you should expect complications because you're kind of not... You know what that does to you? Do you know what kind of stress that put on my body? Unnecessary stress that put on my body. This is how babies have, and you know what, guys, after I mention all that, let's say you did all of those 12 most dangerous practices, okay? You went through all of the testing that was not necessary. You went through the Pitocin, the epidural, then the Pitocin. You went through the cesarean, all of it. And your baby is still alive. And what are they going to do to your baby on day 1 of its life, hour 1 of its life? Because they know now. Your baby is likely not perfect. It's likely not perfect because look at how you treated your body while you were pregnant and in labor. And that trauma that baby has already gone through, we're going to go ahead, strap them down, and poke them with something that's going to hurt a little bit. Forget the trauma of just being strapped down and being pulled away from the only heartbeat and warmth of a mother that you've known for your entire existence. Do you know what that's doing? It's just, if you were an alien looking in on this planet, I mean, you'd be like, this is the way that they're treating these babies and what they're doing. And then we're at a point in our history right now where because people are waking up to this and starting to question it, they're telling you that you're crazy and they're labeling you and they're going to pass laws to make it so that you don't get those choices. You don't get that say. We have to seriously consider that it starts at conception, first of all. Stop being in denial already. And if you are in denial about it, ask yourself what traumatic instance happened in your life that led you to believe that a human being was not a human being. What kind of trauma is that you're pushing back on so badly? And then welcome to what is now the new normal. But this is not normal, guys. It's not normal. And I hope that if anything, because it's so much more difficult to convince the mombies that are already among us to just those of us that are attempting what's not normal and what's actually like right and so natural, that we're just giving birth to children that we're instilling these values on as well. Because the herd among us is already at a loss. But the babies, the ones that can still absorb this kind of information, you know, they're little like they're sponges. And they for us, it's hard to hear this kind of stuff. It's like really hard to take in all the kids can take in information like this. It's okay. Even if it's scary information, like it's okay. They can process it. And they're not going to sit back and be like conspiracy theorists. I mean, it's not normal for a child to go through all of this. They're supposed to just be born and loved. That's it. And they're literally putting things into your system that are going to affect fertility. If not this time around, the next time around. I don't care. I know that injecting is much different than ingesting. But even if you're ingesting and drinking something that harms fertility while you're pregnant, can you take control of your life? It's not going to be easy, but it's going to get easier once you can sit back and admit that this is insane. You're going to feed me, society, all the crap, all the poison. And when I suddenly don't feel too well, I'm going to go back to you for advice on how to treat my body now with all of your recommendations. It's insane. So the people that were asking, well, don't you agree? Like hospitals? Yeah. For modern medicine, emergency situations, that might be the only thing I'm grateful for. And even then, I don't know, guys. I'm hearing of way too many instances. Parents who go in for just a stomach ache. People who go in for just like vertigo spells, end up in the hospital, and a week later, barely make it out alive, if even that. Then you look at the hospital bill and you're going, oh, $250,000 later for what was a stomach ache? But thank God we have hospitals. Thank God. It's so sad. It's just so terrible that we've allowed it to get to this. You can't wait. You're in that much of a rush for this baby to come out. And first of all, you clearly shouldn't be in a rush because you've obviously not done enough research. How about instead of the baby coming out 3 weeks early, you take those 3 weeks to read an insert, to look at the first 2 shots that they're going to be giving your baby on day 1 of their life, and then the next 4 to 5 that they're going to be offering you at the 2-month visit. How about you take some time to do that? Because you can't read when you're lacking sleep with a newborn. You can't read when you are in the thick of it and in the trenches with a newborn baby. So you're going to have to depend on somebody to tell you that you're doing an okay job, with their help, of course. Take the time. This is your life. This is your baby. But we live in a society where, I mean, P.S., it's summer, right? And you're like, hey, there's actual news clips in the summer where anchors have to look with all seriousness into a monitor on TV and say like, hi guys, hi, we're all living in Nevada, we're all in Arizona, it's 1:15 out. Here's a reminder, don't leave your baby in a hot car. Don't leave your baby in a hot car because they could die. Don't even leave it, don't even chance it. Even with the AC, just don't chance it. Don't leave them in a car to begin with the AC on, because there's also pedophiles everywhere. They don't say that part though. They don't say that part. And you have parents that are watching this and going, oh honey, look, it's 1:15 out, reminder. We can't just be leaving little Sophie in the back of the car to go run into the bank really quick. We can't do that. And they're going, wow, thank you. Thank you, news, for giving me such life-saving information. You shouldn't be allowed to leave the hospital, okay, or your house with a baby if you don't know that you shouldn't leave your baby in a hot car or in a car to begin with. You should lose your parenting card. That's where we're at. Oh, but if they do that, if that parent that does that, who's likely demanding that you sacrifice your child for the herd, it's an accident. It's one big mistake. It's no one's fault. This is where we live. Ah, thank you. Oh, thank you. What other advice do you guys have for us? Well, here's some life-saving advice from the news. If you want to feel better, you should probably eat healthier too. But if you don't want to eat healthy, well, we have life-saving doctors and places like hospitals that can help you out with that. How pathetic are you? Truly, ask yourself, because I had to do that. Because I kept telling myself, I can't have a home birth, I can't have a home birth, I can't do it, I can't do it. I told myself that like the first 2 months I was pregnant with Enzo. I just kept psyching myself out. I can't do this, until I took the time to see that, oh my gosh, historically, and thousands and thousands of women who've shared their birth stories that just, you can do this. You can do this. You can go through pain like that to, like, and I hate that I'm like quoting, but there's a podcast I was listening to. The argument there was, what's more painful, getting kicked in the nuts or having labor? And I was like, this is stupid. Obviously, what's more painful is giving birth, right? Right? Everyone would agree. Like, labor is the most painful thing. And so I was like, what an idiot. Who's this guy? I feel like he was literally just trying to trigger every feminist. But then he proved me wrong, because literally this is what squashed that entire argument. He goes, look, women, we're not saying that labor isn't painful and excruciating and the worst thing ever. Okay? But getting kicked in the balls is worse, and here's why. Never will a guy who got kicked in the balls sit back years later and say things like, I know that was painful, but I think in 9 months from today, I'm going to want to get kicked in the nuts again. But women, we do that all the time. We do that. It was so painful. Birth was so excruciating. But in a couple of years, I'm probably going to do this again because I just... Oh, ladies. No guy's ever going to say, kick me in the nuts again 9 months from now. They're going to try to avoid it for the rest of their life if it's happened once. Right? No, but I don't care if there's been no studies, and I want to see the baby, and I'm going to take him to all the ultrasounds because I want to see them in little black and white, society's offering this to me, and then I can put it in a cute little picture frame or in like a little doll that records the heartbeats, like my own little Build-A-Bear, and your baby is in there going, Women, we are strong. We are strong enough to want to do the most painful thing ever, over and over and over again. I'm not telling you not to take the drink, but don't do it. Don't do it. All right, I'm going to end this live. I didn't even get to the other thing I was going to talk about, but apologies. But anyway, I hope that answered your should I take that orange drink question. You guys have an amazing day. I might jump on later. We'll see. Okay. Research birth. The Business of Being Born is a great book. Okay? Please. For all of us. For humanity. Get a hold of your life.